As we prepared to leave orbit, I thought of how understanding my family had been. In one evening, they learned that they were part of a history they could never have imagined. Although our ship was cloaked, we were especially careful to run silent to keep from being detected. Welcome back, family. I hope you are doing well. I truly appreciate you coming back. For those of you who are new, welcome. And for those of you who just happened to click on this channel, please like and subscribe. Now let's continue. We didn't take a deep breath until we were far enough to make our jump. The trip was uneventful. John was heavily sedated, and I didn't rest until we were landing. Elder Chaktar was there to meet us at the landing pad. He and Commander Podge were there to relieve us of our cargo. Elder Sim was given an alternate arrival time for our ship, so we had to land again for her sake. Captain Lau gave her the report we'd rehearsed. Healer Gruha and Sue Larson were among the casualties. Lippy agreed to play injured and was taken to the medical facility under Master Physician Bolka's care. Elder Sim asked that I report to her. Again, making sure that my story matched Captain Lau's, I told her what happened. We were attacked almost as soon as we arrived. I was in the process of trying to communicate with my family when we were attacked. It was as if we were expected. They'd been keeping my brother under surveillance just so they could catch us. How could they know? I asked. They were shooting at us and Sue tried to fire back and got hurt. Healer Gruha rushed to help her and was shot as well. I don't know what kind of weapon they used, but their bodies just melted, I said, my face showing the horror of the experience. Were there any casualties on their end? Elder Sim asked in a strained voice. We fired back, but I can't be sure. It all happened so fast. Elder Sim, you must convince the elders to grant me permission to go back. I must make sure that my brother is safe, I said. She nodded. Yes, of course, we will be meeting shortly to discuss the merits of another trip. Now you must go get some rest, and I insist that you go see the physician as well. I smiled weakly at her. I'm fine. I'm just so upset that I didn't get to see my brother. If you're sure, then I suggest you go home and rest just the same. Of course, Elder. Do you think I could speak with Elder Chaktar? I think if I can convince him, then the others will agree with you and him. Warrior Brightblade, you are starting to sound hysterical. Go home and get some rest. We will contact you once we've met. Is that clear? Elder Sim said with authority. I nodded and bowed my head. I turned to leave and knew that I had convinced her without a shadow of a doubt. My apartment unit was ready for me, thanks to Mrs. Podge. The commander has given me a few days' leave before meeting to discuss another mission. I had time to go over everything that occurred, and despite what I told Elder Sim, I really did want to go back to Earth. There was the matter of John and Buck not reporting to their superiors to consider. My dad had agreed to take an impromptu vacation before the Frogans could regroup. Not knowing where they went would give my family time to figure out their next move. They didn't tell the schools, nor his firm where he and my mother worked anything. If the Frogans came to investigate, no one would be able to give them any information. My family left in the middle of the night. Lena had come to the rescue once again. She had a home that had been in the family for generations. Absolutely no one knew of it, not even my father knew until I told them about it. In her letter, Lena told them they could use the deed to claim the house. Dad checked it out and found that it was valid. She must have known that they'd need it someday. Before I left, I helped them plan for their escape. Pictures of the home was also in the box, and it was beautiful and well-maintained. Not only did she leave them a safe place of refuge, she left accounts that would help them get settled. She was living up to the title of hero. I showered and changed into some sweats and made dinner for myself for the first time in almost a year. Eggs and cheese never got old. I walked around my unit, familiarizing myself with the place. I checked that I still had stones in each room, and then I turned on the stereo. I danced to the latest techno music. Yeah, I know, I'm a weirdo. As was the custom for fallen soldiers, we had a memorial ceremony for Ensign Sue Larson and Healer Grua. The crew and I attended, and we wore white bands on our left arms in their honor. Commander Podge said a few words and awarded them medals for bravery posthumously. Their medals were placed in a display case for fallen soldiers on base. After the ceremony, I was summoned to see the elders. A driver came for me, and I wondered what they decided. I wanted to make sure that the ships in Earth's orbit hadn't taken any action. I know that several weeks had gone by since my trip, and it was driving me crazy not knowing what happened. The chambers were brightly lit, and I entered to find that the layout had changes. The elders now sat at individual dais spread across the room. Elder Choctaw inclined his head to me when I caught his gaze. The last storm caused some structural damage. Our architects have assured us that this new design will withstand storms better, he explained. It looks great, I said, looking around. Warrior Brightblade, we've had a few days to review your report and that of Captain Lau as well as the rest of your crew. We have carefully weighed all options available to us, and we have decided that a trip to Earth so soon after yours will not be possible, Elder Sims stated. Why is she the spokesperson? Why? I don't understand. In my report, I told you that we never got the chance to see if my brother was safe or not. Where is the team that is observing his essence? Are they still able to detect him? I asked agitatedly. Warrior Brightblade, you must understand that your brother's safety is not the only concern we have, Elder Sim countered haughtily. What does that mean? My heart was pounding in my chest. What Elder Sim is saying is that we do not know where your brother is at the moment. We were able to keep track of his whereabouts, but after the skirmish with the enemy, his essence signature has vanished. We cannot detect any life forms in your former home, Elder Edwards explained carefully. I fell to the floor in a heap. What do you mean vanished? What happened to my family? I asked tearfully. We are investigating. I am sorry, Fiona, Elder Choctaw said. Warrior Brightblade, we are very sorry. If your family came to any harm, we will know immediately and travel to reclaim your brother. So far, we haven't been able to detect him anywhere. I looked up hopefully. I stood up again and faced them. If you haven't gotten an alert, does that mean he's still alive? Could it mean that he's been captured and is just being held? I asked. We cannot be sure, but I assure you that we will get to the bottom of this soon. It isn't usual for the Frogans to capture our citizens. Now we are assigning you to accompany a reclamation team to Beta 12. If the Frogans are changing their tactics, we will require more security. You will leave in the morning. Commander Podge will brief you this evening, Elder Choctaw said. I understand. I turned and saluted him and left the chambers. One thing I didn't include in my report was that my family and I decided that they should travel to the Brightblade homestead in California. If Choctaw didn't know the whereabouts of my family, I was assured that they were safe. I wasn't trusting anyone with that knowledge. I didn't tell Captain Lau or the others. I only hoped that they hadn't listened in on my conversation with my family. Even if they did, they wouldn't have gotten much. Except for Captain Lau, they didn't understand English. I spoke to my family through Junior. I told them to disappear as soon as they could. The computer was a godsend in that I had Junior type out what I wanted them to do. Fortunately for my dad, he could work anywhere. And with the money Lena left them, they would be fine. Because Lena and the others were original Anthorons, they aged slowly and lived longer than was normal among the humans. It had become necessary to move after several years to escape suspicion. It wasn't until our bloodline had sufficiently diluted that they were able to stay put. Lena hadn't married until she was well into her 60s. It must have been quite a surprise for her husband to age while she continued to appear young. I understood why they lived apart from the humans. The ship had landed in what today is the Arabian Desert, originally, and they lived among the Badawi, Bedouin at first. The Anthorans didn't dwell too long with them and pushed on until they ended up in the mountains with the Incas. However, their religious practices were a huge turnoff, and they finally found themselves in the Americas, and they settled in California. Because of their longevity, the Brightblades were able to amass a great deal of wealth. Apart from monies that would sustain my family for a year, Lena had invested in stocks that resulted in a sizable fortune. If my dad is as smart as I think he is, he could join the company that Lena's husband started. A meeting with its CEO would guarantee him a place in the company. I left that up to him. Lena's husband had agreed to take on her name in order to keep the bloodline visible. In California, they developed the precursor that today is known as a computer chip. My dad's jaw dropped when I told him, and I saw a gleam in his eye. My family had always been tech-savvy, and now I know why. My dad may not have inherited any of the powers of the Brightblade clan, but he certainly knew technology. It was that knowledge that sold him to make the move. I suspected that Laura only went for the money. I cautioned them to be careful not to bring any attention to themselves and to follow Lena's instructions to the letter. Per Lena, there was a stipulation in the company bylaw that allowed for direct BRIGHTBLADE descendants to automatically be on the board of directors. Her lawyers made it ironclad. My father did some research and found that the current CEO was elderly, and there were rumors that the company would be up for grabs if no heir appeared. As I entered the commander's office, I realized that something was up. He was all business. I immediately saw why. Elder Sim was sitting in a chair behind the door. "Good evening, Elder Sim," I said with a slight bow. "Relax, Fiona. This is an informal meeting. In Beta 12 was my homeworld too, and I wanted to be of service. Commander Podge will brief you." The commander sat behind his desk and clicked on the electronic pad on his desk in front of him. "Warrior Brightblade, we have 4 essences locked in on the planet. We are ready to reclaim them, however. In light of what has been happening recently on other reclamation missions, we must have extra security. Under no circumstances will we allow the mission to be compromised. Your job is to assist in the reclamation and provide security. Use your own discretion on how to proceed if it appears that the enemy is near." I nodded and turned to the elder. "Is there anything you want to add?" I asked. "And Beta 12 is a unique planet. Our populace lived mostly in the trees. When one of ours die, we are careful to cremate the remains. We have a 10-day mourning period where we gather to pay our respects. The more important the person, the more elaborate the proceedings. If you didn't know, there are 2 races on the planet. Although the commander and I are both from the planet, we are of different races. Like ANTHORA 2, we have a caste system. The blue-haired people were the working class, and the silver-haired ruled. We only know that the 4 essences are precious. Please bring them home safely," she said, pulling off her head covering to show her blue hair. I inclined my head and assured them both that I would do my very best to ensure the safety of the mission. Commander Podge handed me a thin tablet, and I left. The ride back to the base was uneventful, and I got out of the conveyor absent-mindedly. I needed to see Lippy and Pua before walking back to my apartment unit. They would be my crew members. We were getting another navigation officer and healer, so he or she would undergo a Frogan check before departure in the morning. Lippy and Pua share an apartment unit. They were good friends and worked well with each other. Besides, what happened on the mission to Earth had left them skeptical of everyone around them. I agreed. I told them about the mission, and they told me that they'd already been briefed. The jump to Beta 12 was routine. Long, but routine. Our new navigation officer was Bell. I was overjoyed. Lippy and Pua were a bit intimidated, but soon they relaxed and treated her like one of the crew. Elder Bitka's daughter was our new healer. Saragi was personable and passed the Frogan test. My only worry was that if anything went down, I'd have to make sure they both returned safely. Beta 12 was huge. It was a bright orange planet. As we swung around the planet to the coordinates given to us, we spotted 3 Frogan battlecruisers in orbit with us. Captain Lau ordered a complete stop and engine shut down. As we hung there in space, not more than a few hundred kilometers from the closest cruiser, my heart pounded in my chest. We watched in both awe and horror as another cruiser suddenly came out of a jump so close to us, it pushed us out of our position. Something was going on there. I wasn't sure if we'd been spotted or if they knew we'd come for our deceased. I looked to Lau for direction, but he was staring at the cruiser, concentrating hard. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lippy pointing at him with a horrified expression. I looked at Lau again. The shiny surface of the console showed his reflection, and what I saw there made me instantly mad and sad. I lifted my hand and nearly decapitated him. Lau was a Frogan, and he was communicating with the ship. I didn't know how much he'd communicated to the hive mind, but I wasn't going to stick around to find out. I pulled his body out of the seat and took control of our ship. I broke out of orbit and shot out into space. I wanted to put as much distance between us and them as I could. "Did you know?" asked Bell. "No, I don't understand how he could have been. This must have happened recently upon our return from Earth. We've got to preserve his body until we get back home," I insisted. "Tell me, what would you have done if you realized that your captain was an alien? Comment below if you'd react the same as Fiona. Let's get back to the story." "You're captain now," Lippy said to no one in particular. "Shit, they're following us and gaining," Pua said, looking at her console agitatedly. "Bell, what's the nearest planet to our position?" I asked. "I've got to consult the charts. Give me a minute," she answered. The battleship pursuing us was getting closer, and I didn't want to panic, but I was close. Lao just betrayed us and probably gave away our secrets. I needed to find a way out of our present predicament before I could think about what his betrayal was going to do to our people. Captain Brightblade, we are 2 jumps from T4. Shall I attempt it? Bell asked. Yes, cloak us and jump, I ordered. In cloaked mode, we hid in a cluster of asteroids. 2 minutes after we were safely hidden, the Frogan battleship came out of their own jump. They scanned the area but couldn't detect us. They jumped away again, and we stayed for an hour before we made any moves. I went to the cold storage area to check on something that was puzzling me. Lao couldn't have been a Frogan all along. He was a wielder. Why didn't he fight? I unzipped the bag and took a breath before I inspected the body. It had started to decompose into that jelly mass the others had when they died. I gingerly searched the pockets. I found a small recorder in his breast pocket. I pulled it out and went back to the others. Bell plugged it into the cruiser's communications port, and a hologram appeared. Captain Lau's image was bloody. If you are seeing this, Fiona, I am probably dead. This image you see is of Frogan Umak. His mission was to transmit the cloaking device codes to his superiors. As captain, I had knowledge of them, and he will have the opportunity to transmit to the hive mind. I am sorry. I was overpowered by the team interrogating the prisoner we captured on Earth. He had mind-controlled them. Under a ruse, I was called to come to the interrogation room and was ambushed. I was able to make this recording because of my Liak. I am fighting his takeover long enough to make this recording. You must fight Fiona. If you can get back home, warn them that they are coming. Where did you find that? Asked Bell in a strained voice. In his breast pocket. I just knew he wouldn't leave us guessing. I don't know how much he transmitted, but we have to make it home. With a collective breath, we took our positions and faced forward. Slowly, we inched our way from the massive rocks and found 2 ships patrolling. We ran silent until we were far enough away and jumped back home. Commander Podge was waiting for us and quickly ushered us into a conference room on base. The conference room was crowded. Almost everyone who wasn't on actual duty was there. Shortly after you broke orbit, we found Captain Lau's body. The interrogation team are being treated. None of them can remember anything from the time they took possession of the prisoner from Earth. From what we can piece together, he had taken control almost immediately after regaining consciousness. For the better part of a week, he had been gathering information before he took over Captain Lau. I gave report, handed over the recorded message, and waited for instructions. Commander, we have to prepare for war, Ensign Lippy added. The commander raised a hand to get everyone's attention. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been preparing for this eventuality for thousands of years. Captain Lau thought he had good intel, but he didn't. Years ago, our defense technicians devised a way to keep the cloaking codes from even me. They are picked at random by our computers, and they change every other day. What he transmitted were outdated. Even he didn't know that the computers controlled the codes. How about the coordinates to the planet? Even if they don't have a way of compromising the planet, they know where we are. This came from a ground defense captain. I can assure you, Captain, that we are safe. We will not be engaging in war today or tomorrow. We must, however, find a way of getting back to Beta 12 to reclaim our citizens. Warrior Brightblade, Commander Podge and I are assigning you, Ensigns Lippy, Pua, and Bell to your new command. By default, you are now promoted to captain. Tomorrow, 2 other ships will accompany you to Beta 12. I expect you to bring our people home. Elder Chaktar said from the back of the conference room. I stood at attention and saluted. Sir, I have a question. Our chronographs are programmed to detect alien DNA, so how is it that we didn't get any alarms concerning Captain Lau? He wasn't wearing it. We found it beside the body, and it was how we were able to identify the body as his. We cannot be certain that the technology hasn't been leaked to others on the planet. If they know about the chronographs, we can still make it work to our advantage. Anyone not wearing one will be suspect, replied Elder Chaktar. Immediately, everyone in the room began checking their neighbor. I felt a profound sense of loss for the captain. Elder Chaktar assured me that he can be saved as long as his body is preserved. I couldn't dwell on that right now. I am now a captain. My apartment offered a welcome respite from the chaos outside it. The Frogans were trying to break through our defenses to finish a job they started eons ago. I believe none who are following orders today knows firsthand what happened. And then we have those Frogans hiding in plain sight trying to find a way to get it done. My head was spinning, and I wished I could just close my eyes and have it all go away. Unless this is some fantasy world, what 21-year-old do you know of has a whole planet depending on her? Seriously, a knock on my door caught me mid-pace, and I hurried to answer it. Ming and Gork stood at my front door. I ushered them in and led the way to the living room. "It is good to see you. What are you guys doing here?" I asked them. "All kinds of strange things have been happening. Aisha and Jahael have disappeared. Aisha was set to move into her apartment unit, and they were going to cohabitate. Ming and I promised to help them move, and this morning they were gone. No one has seen them," Gork said. "Was this reported?" I asked them. "I reported it to Elder Chaktar only just an hour ago. We've been searching for them all day," Ming said. "What about Lila?" I asked. "We saw her earlier. She helped us search for a while," Gork replied. "Where is she now?" "She said that she would go back to the dorm and wait for us to return," Ming said. "Did you tell her where you were going?" "We only told her that we were going to see Elder Chaktar." I stood up. Things were getting more and more bizarre by the minute. "Okay, I suppose he'll have to deal with this too," I told them. I turned to face my friends and fired at their chests, hoping against hope that I was doing the right thing. I couldn't bring myself to shoot at their heads. Afterwards, I couldn't even touch their bodies. I called Elder Chaktar. "Are you feeling confused or sad? Maybe you're just screaming, 'WTF?' Comment which." 20 minutes later, my apartment was crawling with ground defense officers. They questioned me over and over, and my answers were the same. I told them what Ming and Gork told me. They then asked how I knew they were Frogans. They weren't wearing their chronographs, and they lied about going to see Elder Chaktar because he was addressing me in the conference room with Commander Podge. "I really liked them," I said as I watched their melting bodies being taken away. A cleaning crew was already working on the splatter on the walls and floor. I was losing friends left and right. "We have a search party looking for Lila and for Ming and Gork's bodies," said the elder. He made me some tea and sat opposite me while I sipped on it. "They are mobilizing and trying to execute whatever it is they have planned. We've been lucky so far. Because of what happened to Captain Lau, we had to take action on Jahael and Aisha." Ming and Gork panicked, he said. "Elder Chaktar, if they are able to overpower a wielder, what do you think is going to happen to the rest of the population? We don't know who they are or how many there are. Heck, we even have one in power," I stressed. "We've gotten most of the public buildings outfitted with the sensors. The commander has given us the go-ahead to round up all who has displayed DNA discrepancies. So far, we've eliminated 25. I almost dropped my cup. "That's impressive. Are they truly Frogans?" "Yes, and our scientists had been experimenting with how to dispose of them when they discovered that the Anthoran skin was aware." He let that sink in. "Aware? Aware how? What does that mean?" "All along, we'd been destroying the whole body. Then they tried to remove the skin and just destroy the Frogan mush underneath. The skin was then prepared for burial. The following day, when they came to take it, they found that the skin was glowing with health and was regenerating." "So they aren't truly lost?" "No, and there's hope that the other bodies we couldn't identify will regenerate through a cloning process. The science team informed me that as long as the essences are still aware, they might be able to regenerate those we have in stasis." "That's wonderful," I said. I gave him a look, but that was an argument for another day. "What is being done to find Lila?" "She's had a head start. She's been changing bodies, but we'll find her." Well, that's it for now. For those of you who are new to our channel, welcome, and please go back to the beginning to get a better understanding. I promise you, you'll enjoy the journey. After that, please like, smash that notification bell, and subscribe. See you next time.